So let's jump over to account settings and talk about some of the relevant settings that you may want to take a look at or just make sure that they're set sort of the way that you want on your account. So to get to account settings, you're going to click on the little picture in the top right and then click on account settings. This first one is called labels, and this is basically where the PARiConnect platform, by default is going to call, clinicians and clients and groups. However, we recognize that for your organization, that may not make sense. There may be a better name to give those. So if you wanted clinicians to be, psychologists or researchers, whatever, you can change that. Let's say you wanted them to be called students. You can click on the enter a custom label here, type the name student, and then hit save. And you'll notice that it does say you'll need to log back off and on to sort of see that change. And this is a small thing. It doesn't impact the text of the reports or anything like that. It's just within the platform, just makes everything feel a little bit more like home. So that's one thing that you can update. Let's jump over to the settings tab. So this is where the really most important features are going to be available as far as settings that are worth reviewing. And the first one I want to talk about is really important, especially when you're coming back from a school year and maybe it's been a while since you had some of these assessments. This one that's called months of assessments to display, by default, is going to be set to 6 months. And what that means is that when I go to the home screen and I go to the pending and completed assessments tab, it's only going to show me assessments that occurred during this time frame. So it's only going to show me things that were done within the last 6 months. So if for some reason I needed to come back and rerun a report that was from a year ago or 2 years ago, I may not see that by default. So if you come in here and change this months of assessments to display to all, that's going to show you all of the assessments that have been done on your account. So if you're looking for something and you're not seeing it, this is definitely a setting that you may want to change. And you may want to just set it to all if you're not that worried about clutter or having too much data on screen at one time. You may want to just go ahead and change this to all and sort of leave it there moving forward. Let's see, there are some settings as far as inventory warnings that you can set. We do allow you to set different thresholds for low report inventory and low iAdmin inventory. The thinking there is that, in some cases, maybe 200 reports is low because your purchasing process can take 3 to 4 years, 3 to 4 months, but maybe iAdmins you don't use as frequently, and maybe you want that to be at 100. So essentially you can set those two things separately. And what that's going to do is it's going to notify you in that top right corner of the home screen when you have low inventory for any of the assessments that you have on your account. So you can change those. Also, the new purchase cutoff days. So that's essentially going to tell you if inventory has been added to your account, what do we consider that to be new inventory? Because the system will tell you uses have been added to the account. So you can change this date to be larger or smaller depending on, sort of how you want it to work. This setting doesn't currently work properly, but this essentially will allow you to set a cutoff date that if you get down to 0 for a particular item, it will still show on your inventory list. I believe we're hoping to have that working properly again within the next couple of weeks. But for now, you may want to just ignore that one. And then the last thing I want to mention here is the send low inventory email notifications. And this is somewhat new. So if you've been a long-time PARiConnect user, you may not realize that this is available. Essentially, what you can do here is when you get under the threshold, one of the thresholds that you've set here for a particular assessment, PARiConnect will send you an email to notify you of that. And so, if you want to send it to yourself, you can just check the box that says to the account supervisor. You can also include one additional user, and that person does not have to be a PARiConnect user. It could be somebody that's just an administrative person and you want them to know, oh, hey, we're under the threshold for X item. Go ahead and order more of those. So you can basically just check the box here and then put in the email address for that person. And then once you go sort of trigger that threshold, it will send an email to sort of let you know. Other thing to mention here on this screen is a user-specific setting, and especially if you're using an assessment like the Brief 2, this one can be really, really powerful, and I certainly recommend sharing this with your other clinicians, your other users on the account. By default, this one that says require rater name on iAdmins is going to be set to false. And what that means is that when you create an assessment, if it's an observer form, so you've got, say, the Brief 2 parent form or the teacher form, if you leave the rater name blank, if I set this to true, The test taker, the person who's taking the assessment, will not be able to continue without putting something in the rater name field. And the real value of that is, let's just say you give two parent forms regarding the same client, or two teacher forms regarding the same client. If they both leave it blank, it can be very difficult to tell which one was which. So I definitely do recommend setting this to true. It will just, save you any headaches if people are not putting in the information, putting in their name. Last thing that's here in setting are email templates. So if you're sending a lot of emails, a lot of assessments by email, you can come in here and you can create new templates. You can select an existing template to make changes to it. If you're not familiar with how these work, it's basically just allowing you to sort of pre-populate text for the subject, the body of the email, and then the different settings that are available to you. So I highly recommend checking that out and making any tweaks here that you might need to. And then, of course, you just click Save down at the bottom once you've made those changes.